Who are you?
My name is Jim Roberts. I've been a low-income housing advocate since 2002. Actually, before that, I started with the old Danmore, testified at the city hall to preserve it.
I'm
Um,
having trouble hearing. Let's move up a little bit away from the street. Old what?
it was the old Danmore Hotel, and
Danmore.
that was when I first became involved because I lived there at the time,
Okay.
and it was a church-owned building um, that the church wanted permission from the city to tear it down, and they had built the Alder House as a replacement, which was the first low-income housing built for quote unquote the low-income workers in America in 20 years. The previous one had been built in San Diego without government funding. That was built by the First Presbyterian Church. St. James followed the model and took their parking lot and built it also. It was built as a model for the nation on how to solve the problem of people having a place to live who worked in major metropolitan areas in America, whether it be a busboy, a dishwasher, or whatever, who
And
didn't.
this was where?
The Alder House was built on Southwest 13th in Alder.
And when was this?
That was built about 20 years ago,
Okay. Oh, okay.
and it was built as a model for the nation. I asked Mr. Milne, who was the chief engine behind this. In fact, the library in the Alder House is dedicated to him. How many government agencies, whether it be HUD or HAP or any private or semi-private group uh, dedicated to housing for the poor and the low income, had ever crossed that threshold to see what you could do for the limited amount of money they had and the 132 units of housing they built? He said, not one. And it was covered extensively in the Oregonian from the foundation being laid until it was complete and open.
Not one what?
Not one group came to look at this model for the nation.
Okay, so how much money was spent to?
To build it, 4.2 million for 132 units.
Okay.
Uh, uh, the joke was it was too much bang for the buck for them to be interested. Um,
So they were successful, but nobody paid attention.
and nobody paid attention.
Why is that?
Well, I hesitate to say this, but my U.S. Marine
We
Corps
love
buddy,
to speculate.
my my U.S. Marine Corps buddy calls them quote unquote poverty whores. Um, I would never be so harsh with my words, but that's what he calls them.
So, in other words, there's a reason things are staying the same.
Yes.
That's that. That's what we're starting to suspect too, because people are getting rich off keeping people houseless. I've noticed.
Well, they have a vested interest in just keeping things the way they are,
Status quo.
the status quo. Hillsdale Terrace now, which is the latest project of Home Forward, which we like to call Home Froward or Home Perverse. Uh, the project is at Hillsdale Terrace, 6.5 acres of publicly owned land. They are building 122 units of low income housing for first estimated cost $47 million.
Now that's exactly the same price as the Bud Clark building, which housed what 130.
I have the paperwork on the Bud Clark, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah,
uncanny.
yeah.
So okay, so again, we're talking two, three, 400,000 for a unit
Yes,
for a person. Yeah,
yes. Uh,
lucky person.
yeah, and it's you have to realize that there was 63 bedroom apartments there to begin with in 8 2-story cinder block buildings. Um, they had a grant from HUD called the Hope Six funds. They've used the Hope Six funds as seed money to do their travesty with the New Columbia, with Iris Court Apartments, now called Humboldt Gardens, and now this is the third time. 18.5 million for, actually those funds are to rehab or renovate extremely rundown housing in the United States, but they use a social loophole of like in the New Columbia, to mix different income levels because the values of the richer are supposed to rub off on the poorer.
Where does that because come from? Where do you know that that's the mentality?
Because of their own press releases.
They actually said this.
Yes.
Okay. And whose press release?
Well, this information came from